Welcome to the Low Carb Athlete Podcast, where we focus on discussing topics to help you burn fat, optimize health, and improve performance in life and sports. Transform the whole you from the inside out with the holistic method. Let's dive in. Here's your host, Debbie Potts.
Hey guys, it's Debbie, and have you used a CGM before? CGM is continuous glucose monitor, and there's different options out there. Ideally, you can get it from your doctor, but they seem to just want to wait until you're type 2 diabetic and not be preventative. I would like us to take ownership of our health and make choices now to prevent having high, low glucose readings and optimize your health from the inside out by testing and not guessing. And that includes a CGM that goes on for 14 days, and you can order one via NutriSense. And a CGM is giving you glucose updates with a small device in the back of your arm 24/7. Totally easy. I actually did a video on my YouTube channel, Low Carb Athlete, how to apply this CGM. First time, you're kind of scared, but it doesn't hurt. But it gives you real-time glucose readings. Glucose response to meals. You'll learn about what foods are reactive to you, and that could be a healthy food that you think is great, but it could raise your glucose. Simple things as stevia, for me, raise my glucose. Chewing gum, raise my glucose. Stress, when I'm driving a car and there's traffic, raises my glucose. Every stress response is a glucose response. So learn how to manage your stress. Learn how to pick right foods for you, unless you can, do other lab testing and figure out vibrant wellness food zoomers, but it's kind of expensive for people. So if you can wear a CGM, it's a great way to learn about stress, food, exercise, stacking movement with your nutrition. Figure out how to balance your blood sugar. So we want to learn more about how to exercise and eat or not eat. And morning cortisol, does it raise your glucose? If there's hidden stressors at nighttime, does your glucose go up higher while you're sleeping? So it gives us lots of clues that we can put in our investigation when we are working on your personalized fueling, training, and performance program to improve fat loss, performance, and longevity. So head to NutriSense website, nutrisense.io, how it works. You can learn more about your habits, your routines, your relationship to food, a little bit more. Great app to use, and it can sync on to different programs, so you can put it all together. So if you want to get started with your journey in NutriSense, I suggest this to all my clients. Use at least 30 days. So you can do a 30-day, 90-day, different programs, but you can pick which one you want. You get the sensor in the mail, put it on, lasts for 14 days, sync it to the app, and get your readings on there. And then if you're doing my VIP coaching program, I'm working with you to correlate this data together. So begin your health optimization journey with NutriSense, and you can save on your order with our code, as usual, Low Carb Athlete. So no carbs is not our goal, it's carb timing, and using NutriSense, you can help figure out your nutrient-dense whole food plan and when to adjust your macros based on your exercise intensity, duration, based on your life stressors, and learn more. So it's nice to have this data. So test and not guess with NutriSense. Let me know how you like it. Hello, it's Debbie, and I have my friend Jodi Cohen back on the show. We had her on a couple times in the past, 5 years. So I need to go back and find those links for you to share what Jodi is about. She is the owner of Vibrant Blue Oils, and this is one of the secret oils, essential oil blends, parasympathetic. So I've been taking this for a while, on and off. You just take a little dab and put it behind your ear. I shouldn't do it now because I don't want to get relaxed. I want a stimulation, not relaxation. So this helps you get into the parasympathetic state. So if you look at what is involved in the parasympathetic nervous system activities, the functions of being parasympathetic, rest and digest, also detoxification, and we want to optimize our sleep to help us get recovered and repaired, and wake up feeling refreshed and get that good sleep score and your heart rate variability score. All that can be helped so much by using some essential oils, part of your sleep stack. I know before bed, I've been trying to do our sauna a few times a week. We have a sunlight and sauna we bought for Christmas, and do that. And we do this little 15-minute stretching routine based on the Huberman Lab research they shared on how to improve flexibility. So holding a stretch 30 seconds, we do it 3 cycles through. So it's 4 stretches on the right leg, right side, and then 4 on the left, vice versa. And then you repeat that cycle for 3 rounds. And then I have my bed all ready, go get to bed. I write in my journal, set what I want to manifest, write in what I'm grateful for that day, set intentions for the next day, and write some affirmations and whatever else I'm thinking, any little mind dump in a journal. And then I try to read a book, which I need to start a new one. And goal's just a minimal goal, 3 pages or more to read. I sleep with eye mask on. Our room's cold. I have the fan on me and I have a heavy blanket, and really working on my sleep because my background with metabolic chaos, HPA axis dysfunction, adrenal exhaustion, whatever you want to call it, that started 10 years ago. If you have experienced anything with HPA axis dysfunction, you'll have that wide awake at 2 a.m. and you're just exhausted all day. And then you're tired but wired and you can't fall asleep, or you do fall asleep, then you wake up. So really optimizing sleep is always a huge goal for me after my experience. And I know if I don't sleep well, if anyone doesn't sleep well, we probably don't have energy to do a good workout. We probably don't have energy to eat or make food or make good food choices. You're probably grumpy, so your mood's a little bit more off, a little more sensitive and reactive and emotional, easy to get depressed. And also, I find lack of sleep just kind of messes with the whole day. So sleep is key for performance, recovery, and repair, but also for having positive energy the next day. So the essential oils help me, part of my stack. And we'll talk about, some oils I got from Vibrant Blue Oils, how to improve my detoxification process when I'm going into the sauna. So I got the lymph oil and a fascia release, and really working on lymphatic system and drainage pathways and help amplify the sauna benefits of detoxing. So anyways, I wanted Jodi to come on, talk about that and figure out, what can we do to help restore balance, homeostasis. We have different hormetic stressors out there, but we tend to, type A, driven, ambitious individuals, athletes, do a little bit too much of everything. And a lot of the information we hear, and I see this in clients all the time, that we do everything to the extreme. And we just don't do a little bit of it. We just go all in or all out. And there's a lot of you out there, including myself. So we tend to do, I learned this the hard way, fasting too much. I was doing too much OMAD because you're burning fat, fueling by fat and protein. You're just not hungry. And maybe you are hungry and you're so strict and consistent in setting that fasting window that you're not eating even if you're hungry, and not paying attention to how you feel and eating when you're hungry. And it changes day to day based on your workout and your day's activities and your stress load. But really making sure we're taking care of the whole person, the whole you, and helping, not doing too much sauna, not doing too much cold plunges, not doing too much extended fasting, not too much HIIT training, not too little, and finding the right amount, which is another podcast I'm working on, is PNOE metabolic testing. I start doing this summer after I master how to use it on myself and others, that you're learning where your limiters are, where your areas of opportunity. And instead of just training the same way all the time, now we can identify what areas you need to do more of and what you need to do less of. But if you put that with nutritional therapy assessments that I do with clients, put that with your functional lab testing, we can dial in the most personalized program ever, and then retest, metabolic test ideally every quarter, But if you could know how you should train, how you should fuel, what supplement protocol you should be on based on our investigation, it's pretty darn cool. And then tracking with things is your heart rate variability, but maybe even using a heart rate monitor to really get the true heart rate variability scores and seeing how your stress and recovery is. So let's have Jodi come on and talk about the hypothalamus and more. I'll go into her why another time, but let's bring her on in a second. Let me pull up her bio. So Jodi founded Vibrant Blue Oils in 2012. It's a collection of proprietary blends of organic and wild crafted essential oils. And it's a popular destination for thousands of health-seeking consumers and practitioners, as myself, who depend on her supply of quality essential oils because we know they're a good source. But Jodi's got an extensive education. She earned her MBA from Columbia University. She's worked in marketing, executive positions at Microsoft, Time, US News, World Report. She is a smart lady. She is now in Seattle, where I used to live, and she devotes her time to educate and inspire people to take back and rebalance their health by incorporating the simple and potent practice of essential oils into their lives. She's been speaking at different conferences. I know she's just at KetoCon, where I was just supposed to be. She's a part of the Mindshare Summit with JJ Virgin. And I know she's also a nutritional therapy practitioner. So she's been at the conferences there when we had them pre-COVID, and I hope we have them again. But she's spoken at different conferences and worked with leading people, podcasts as Wellness Mama, Thyroid Pharmacist, and Elephant Journal. Lots of interviews she's done. So she's great to share her journey. She's very authentic and shares her struggles and her trauma that she had with losing her son in a horrible accident, tragic accident a few years ago. And now she's just continuing to share and grow with all of us and our own journeys and helping us enhance that process with simple thing as essential oils. Because I find one is your skin is a mouth, and there's only so many supplements you can take. So whatever we can do without taking another pill, I'm all for, because we only probably, I've read like 30% of the supplements you might take might absorb. So that's why I choose more liquids, the liposomal as from Quicksilver, and then using these essential oils, but how they can be used as adaptogens to help restore balance and homeostasis in our body. So I'll have Jodi explain more. Okay, we've got Jodi Cohen on the show, talk shop about essential oils, being healthy, being happy, having energy each day, thriving. As I always talk about, training yourself for races and events and performance this year, but also your future self. So I was just writing notes. Who are you going to be 10, 20, 30 years from now? So Jodi, why is Jodi coming on the show talking about how energy can be helped with lifestyle habits and nutrition, but also essential healing oils, almost healing oils?
Well, and I almost want to reframe it as like, it's kind of topical remedies that you're applying, right? Yeah. So we're working with the body. So what we're really trying to do is help the body work better, right? Yes. You know, and part of helping the body work better is fluid management, making sure that blood is flowing, making sure that lymph is draining, making sure that areas that are kind of bottlenecks, like the neck, don't stop the good things from getting in and the bad things from getting out, right? So everything you're doing, all the perfect diet, the perfect exercise plan, you know, the timing of the sleep and the eating, all of those things are amazing. And what can, you know, if you've ever biked and, you know, biking uphill in the rain is harder than biking downhill in the sun. You're still biking. You're just basically working with other things to make everything work better. So what I want to talk about is how you can topically apply oils, like for the lymph, for circulation, for the fascia, so that everything that you're doing just is easier and works better, and you recover faster, and you enhance your blood flow. And when you're exercising, you know, if your hips are tight, it's harder to do certain things. If we can open your hips, it just enhances, you know, the workout and reduces the pain and expedites the recovery.
Yeah. And I think people so often get so used to feeling a certain way, and they don't understand that that isn't their new normal, that you can address those areas. We can identify what's imbalance and And even with our nutritional therapy assessments, and if people can't do full lab testing, but you can kind of do signs and symptoms and figure out what areas you need to restore or bring back into that balance, that homeostasis you talked about.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yes, that's true. And there are also certain areas in the body where we know there is congestion, like lymph nodes are clustered around the neck, under the arms, around the bikini line. Like we know that's happening anyway. And even if you are in rock star shape, every day the lymph has to move. It's kind of like you can't brush your teeth on Monday and say, I'm good for the week. There's certain like maintenance and daily proactive repair that you want to do. And the more you get ahead of it, the easier it is to unpack it.
And that's what I'm trying to share on this show, is to be fit and healthy from the inside out for now, but also, as I said, for our future self. And as I see parents age and friends age, we want to take ownership of our health now so we can be even better our second half of our life. And I think so many athletes tend to just work out more.
Yeah.
Less. There, as we were talking before we recorded, I'm getting a lot of people fasting too much, not eating enough, exercising and not recovering. So I don't know. Let's kind of break it up with, how people can take ownership now to help if they're, let's start with, because I have 3 areas. Fat loss is always an issue, weight management.
Yeah.
And then there's performance and longevity.
Yeah. And I actually think that they're interwoven. I think that the kind of common theme for that is detoxification, because what we don't realize is when we're exercising too hard, we're creating kind of metabolic waste, right? Yes. Even good things, too much of a good thing is not a good thing, right? And so what happens with that metabolic waste? How does waste leave the cells? First of all, you need to be, your nervous system, if it thinks there's any kind of danger, including like overexercise, stress and danger, it kind of allocates resources towards survival, which means that things that aren't critical to survival, like having the cells let go of the toxin so you can detoxify, kind of get backburnered. And so you need to kind of get into this relaxed state, this parasympathetic branch of the nervous system that we can talk about. Once you're parasympathetic, then the toxins go from the cells to the fascia, which we can also talk about, to the lymph, to the blood, to the liver, the gallbladder, the gut, and then the toilet. And the more you're able to eliminate waste and get the bad things out, the more you aren't signaling the immune system like, hey, there's a pathogen or something, that shouldn't be here, to kind of light up and cause inflammation, and then inflammation is one of the things that impedes performance, right? Because it compromises mobility. It might contribute to pain. If it's in the brain, it's brain fog, it's energy. So we can start with kind of just helping your body detoxify, just biking with the wind with your body, so that as you're doing all these amazing things, you're also making sure you're cleaning house.
Yeah, I think the cleaning house part, I find most people don't even address. One, they don't address proper digestion, starting what we always say north to south, but also people don't think about the detoxification, opening up the drainage pathways, as we're talking about, and how to measure performance, not just by your watts and your heart rate and your, what your average speed was for that run, how many miles you did, what your bike ride was like, but look at other areas to measure performance. And I think, addressing those with the detoxification.
Well, and let's just talk about lymph, especially for women. Like if you, your arms, if you are wearing a strapless dress and you're worried that little flab is going to stick out from under your arm, that's not fat. That's congested lymph. If you have an armpit, not an arm puff, not an armpit, that's, and it makes sense. Like, especially if you wear underwire bras or bras that are tight, if you take off the bra and the line's still there, then you're compressing lymph and the lymph isn't draining, and you can totally unpack this. But, or if you're getting older and you're starting to see like that turkey gobble, that's lymph too.
Yeah.
All of these things that we don't know. And here's the interesting thing. Lymph drains, this is kind of the most important exit door for lymph. Like if you start doing dry brushing or doing anything and you don't open this first, it's kind of like yelling fire in the crowded movie. without opening the exit doors. The exit door for your lymph are your clavicles. This is,
if they're listening, we'll explain. It's right under, you're right touching under your clavicles to rub the lymph or on
under
right
and above. And go ahead and listeners, feel with me, like just kind of gently massage there. If that feels slightly tender, don't worry, you can fix it. But that's just a little bit of like, wow, there's some congestion here. And there's even the belief that if there's congestion there, then the toxins kind of back up into the neck, and that contributes to thyroid issues like Hashimoto's, brain fog. Like the neck is really, really the bottleneck, and congested lymph kind of, if you've ever been in the middle row in an airplane and like maybe between two linebackers, like that's happened to me. You can't even hold your book. There's no room for your arms. Think of that as your lymph. Your lymph is congesting and compressing into other things. So it's kind of making less space for your vascular system to carry nutrient-rich blood and oxygen to your brain for you to feel energized and focused. It's, preventing drainage. It can impede vagus nerve signaling and kind of turning on all those healing functions. So if you take nothing else from this, you'll maybe start to notice as part of your daily practice, everything you're doing and you're doing so well, add a little lymph drainage, and we can talk about what you do for that.
Yeah, let's just hop in there. So I have my lymph essential oil here, and I have the fascia release oil.
Yeah.
And my parasympathetics that came in a little stack because I was trying to optimize.
We now have roller bottles to even, with like COVID and the idea of touching, we've tried to make it really easier. But all you need to do, you can just put a little lymph in your hand. You can do this with oil, without. What oil does is it just kind of, again, optimizes it. But you can just start like, if you're going to do both at the same time, great. If you're going to do one first, the left clavicle drains 75%. So just start on the left side and just give yourself, a little massage, little gentle touch, and do it like, you can do it when you're waiting in line at the bank. You can do it when you're on hold for the phone call. You can do it when you're sitting in traffic. Just kind of gentle, downward kind of J motions. You're just opening this main drainage point. And that's
right below the clavicle. So people listening. So is that like, if it's puffy feeling, is that congestion, or what are signs of puffy?
A lot of these things, but for anyone who's been bloated, any of us women that certain time of month, we're like bloated, and then we're not bloated. So it's just, once you open this up, it allows all of the lymph, from the neck to drain, and also from the armpits, that's kind of where it travels. Then another, one of the reasons that we use our parasympathetic oil that kind of turns on calm right behind the earlobe on the mastoid bone, that's another big lymph spot. And just massaging there, and you can do it. This is one of the things that actually happens when people start using our parasympathetic oil to stimulate the vagus nerve, is the lymph starts to drain. And what can happen when people write us and say, I've been doing this and now I feel like a little nauseous, or I have headache. What's happening is too much is draining, and your body isn't prepared. You've turned on the fire hose. And so we need to make sure the lymph is open so that everything works. So even, if any of your listeners, if you're starting to take supplements and maybe you feel a little nauseous, or if something is a little catawampus that should be good, always think lymph and drainage and detoxification.
So the drainage pathways are peeing and pooping and sweating, as in a sauna, and then just respiratory too. But so the lymph starting here, is this the below the clavicles is best spot? Is that related to other lymph nodes? Is that just the main part you're saying?
Yeah.
Like,
so
why is it right there?
Lymph flows like down from the head and kind of up through the body. It dumps right here into the heart. Like, if you think about where these are, the clavicles are right above the heart. So the lymph fluid then gets into the bloodstream. And so everything flows through here. And so if this is congested, everything's not flowing as well. They're obviously, your whole body has lymph. These are just kind of where they're concentrated. So the next spot that I really try to help people with is opening right behind the mastoid bone, those lymph nodes. And then I apply oil. We can get into kind of how fascia and lymph work together, and then just kind of gently, this downward motion. Like it's so funny now that I'm 54, Facebook and Instagram send me all these, like, basically they assume I look like shit. So they send me all of these yoga face things all the time. And sometimes I watch them because I'm curious what they're telling people to do. And sometimes they're telling people to like go the opposite way of lymph drainage. And I'm like, that's really interesting. Like it's totally fine. I think if you're gua shaing or doing whatever to go along the jawline, the trigeminal and down, but you want to make sure that you're setting your body up to like drain the fluid
the right direction.
Yeah. So often often water weight is a big deal, which is, I think, what goes on during our time of month, and you can flex like as much as 10 pounds if you just drain fluid. What is fluid? Fluid is lymph. So we're just helping you move the water out.
Okay. So with the lymph oil, since I have this out, we're just talking about rubbing on your clavicle. When would it be the best time? For example, my sunlight and sauna, doing it right before nighttime in bed.
I do it, first thing when I wake up, just to get off to a good start. I do yoga a lot, and I've noticed when I do lymph before I do yoga, especially in this area and kind of along the inguinal, I'm more flexible. Like I can bend more deeply, and I really feel like I get more out of the workout because I feel like I'm helping all the fluids move in the right direction.
I'll have to try that on my hips, because I was saying I do my evening routine. I was saying in the beginning of the show before you came on, using the oil before my sauna. And then I do this little 15-minute kind of stretching yoga before bed, but to open up my hips because they're so dang tight all the time. But that'd be a good little trick.
Really good on the hips too.
Okay. Yeah. So I always like to know, what is it for, when to use it, why, how to put it in a routine, the best time of day of stuff.
Yeah. So my routine, so parasympathetic, I'm sure listeners are familiar with the autonomic nervous system, controls automatic functions, breathing, heart rate, all of these things that are critical to performance and weight loss. And when it feels like it's not safe, not just, they always use the example of the lion chasing you down the street. I've never once in my life seen a lion chasing me down the street, but I have turned on the news and seen something about a school shooting and felt like I was in danger. And so it could be anticipatory stress. It could be past trauma. This is what PTSD is. Something happened, and sometimes you think about it and your body reacts like you're still in it. So that is the fight or flight branch of your nervous system, known as the sympathetic branch, which is allocating resources towards survival. And the gear shift to get you back into the safety branch, the parasympathetic branch, is your vagus nerve, which connects the body and the brain and kind of signals both ways. But it starts at the back of the head, splits, and is most accessible on that point behind the earlobe. That is where there have been pacemaker-like devices that are surgically implanted. It's where there are a lot of devices that you can kind of use it to stimulate. There are a lot of ways to stimulate it. It could be deep breathing. Coffee enemas stimulate it because the vagus nerve innervates the gallbladder, like all these things. But it's a little bit like, the supplements in your house. If you don't take them, they're not going to help you, And I know a lot of people that have supplement graveyards. So what I've tried to do with oils, it smells good. You can put it in your purse. You can put it in your pocket. You can just put it on. That easy. It takes 2 seconds. It does the same thing. And for whatever reason, that seems easier. So people do it.
Yeah. Well, your skin is a mouth. So if you can just apply things and realize that absorbs into your body, and you don't have to take a pill capsule form. But it's also learning how to listen to your body when you can add something as that, and being more intuitive rather than, I was just working with clients of taking all these supplements and, the pulsing it in and out and listening to when do you actually need something. But if you can pay attention to your body that, okay, I feel threatened, or you have, you're talking about trauma, but also negative thoughts. And that can be a stressor as well. And that just that negativity or watching the news or anything, you get stressed out, but that's going to impact, because I say chronic stress impacts the whole use. That will impact your workout, impact your food choices, probably impact your sleep and your recovery, and just overall feeling anxious all day too. I think just having that around when you feel like you're that tired but wired, and when to apply those oils can really help. But putting them on and then breathing and try to do a reset right with it. So not just putting it on and carry on, but how do you kind of reset yourself?
It kind of does force you into a reset. And the other thing that I was kind of surprised to learn, because I definitely experience anxiety, but what I didn't realize is, so the opposite of I'm not safe is I have choices. When you're in that kind of fight or flight state, your choices are limited. You can't see options because, if the tiger is truly chasing you, you really need to focus on either running away or fighting back. You can't contemplate, philosophy in the universe. So your access to the part of your brain that helps you think, your prefrontal cortex, which is behind your forehead, you really don't have access to it. So if you're having that moment where maybe something, scary happened and you're told you only have one option and you really feel back to the corner, if you can find a way to calm your nervous system, reset, and then look at it again and say, like, okay, is that really my only choice? You always have at least two choices. You can do nothing or you can do something. Yeah. And then there's kind of like the realm of what you can do in between. And when you start kind of listing those options, then all of a sudden you feel like you have choices and you feel better because it's back in your power. It's not outside of your control.
Yeah, it is learning that though. People just think, go for the Band-Aid and feel like I have to take medication for something, deal with it, or you just get used to it and just push past it.
Nice. You could, like that is definitely an option. But I just want people to realize, like, you have options, because I think that's when we really go into hyper anxiety overdrive, when we're like, someone shot a school here, and so my kid's school is going to be tomorrow, and like it makes sense to us in that moment, like all of
worry.
Yeah.
It impacts everything you do. You'll kind of feel it all day. And I wanted to touch on too with the parasympathetic. A lot of people use Oura rings and the Whoop band and measuring, and the Garmin watch is doing their body battery. And I've just, experimenting, ideally wearing a heart rate strap, and testing is with the sensor with the heart rate strap is more accurate heart rate variability testing than a watch or a ring. But it is kind of interesting how many people track, but they don't understand what information they're getting and why and how to use it.
That's another good point. Like data is only useful if you know how to interpret it and make it, a different decision. Yeah. So do you want to talk about heart rate variability?
Yeah, let's tell you. I know we've done previous episodes, but I keep talking about it, and I'll share my score sometimes on my HRV score and my Aura, that people are like, oh, I didn't know you can go that high. And I'm like, yeah, I really strive to optimize my sleep and experiment, and using the parasympathetic oil for me really makes a difference. And if I take some glycine and magnesium or what, it's just like timing when I eat and not drinking alcohol and just all the things that impact my heart rate variability. But I think so many people get all this data they're getting from all their gadgets, but they're not using them or adjusting the workout or really focusing on their eating and everything. So what do you think?
I completely agree. And I kind of see heart rate variability is like how variable your heart rate is. And I see it as kind of a measurement of resilience. Mm-hmm. Like the example I like to use, we've all had that moment where we're driving in traffic and someone cuts us off and we're like, oh, whatever, maybe they're in a hurry. Who cares? I hope they get there safely. And then the next day, the exact same situation can happen and 4-letter words are flying out of our mouths. And the only variable in that moment is us and how resilient we are to kind of having things, come and go. Life is never going to be perfect. When my kids were little and the doctor would say, oh, you're really stressed, you need to relax. And I'd be like, what am I supposed to do? Like go to the spa all day? I still need to like pick up my kids and clean the house and feed them. And I'm not going to quit my job, divorce my husband and get rid of my children. Like I need to find a way to de-stress and still have, know that there are going to be stressors. So it's not about, obviously if you're in a very toxic relationship, get out of the relationship. But for the most part, it's not just about removing the stressors. It's like building your resilience and your heart rate variability to handle them. So that's what it's actually measuring, is just how quickly you recover. And so you can kind of get into the specific numbers, but that's kind of that's how I describe it.
Mm-hmm. No, I think it's important. I've done some shows on it, but I think it's important to look at too. Ideally, we don't get this from an Aura or Whoop, but the LF to HF score. And I did a podcast with my friend Rhonda Collier on the Sweet Beat that you can see, the metrics of it and the reading, because you don't really tell, are you more sympathetic, dominant? How resilient are you? Because you get the score on a aura type of ring, or the whoop, but you don't get to see LF, low frequency score versus high frequency. So your lows, your sympathetic versus your parasympathetic, and see, okay, how resilient are you? So breaking that number down, I think is helpful.
No, I love that. And then what do you encourage people to kind of notice when it's in the right zone and look at what they did that day to help them more often?
Well, that's what I was saying in the intro, that I do a journal, and someone gave me this manifestation journal beginning of the year, and I was like, oh, this really helps, because but it has this new one I just bought, has kind of this weird section you can write your activities down, but I use it as kind of tracking what I did. So then if I'm experimenting, I had a really good sleep score, I had more deep sleep tonight, I got 30% deep sleep, and my HRV was 130. What did I do? So you can track that, and looking at, like, that's what I do with my clients. Look at, okay, can you document things like that? So you can see, here's my workouts on Training Peaks. Here's my intensity I did and duration and type, but then look at, what did you eat that day? And what was your day like? How did you feel? What was your mood like? So it's kind of fun. In our NutriQ forms, there's this 3-day food log. I don't know if you use that NutriQ online assessment, but you can add in your mood and your energy and your supplements and really kind of track everything. So then if you learn how to pay attention to how you feel, which is difficult for a lot of people, then you can know, okay, what adjustments to know what works for me to bounce back up that score.
It's back to NutriQ. It's really interesting, because I think what I've noticed is that people can be in terrible pain, and the minute they're out of the pain, they don't remember that they were in pain. I think this is one reason that we don't remember childbirth. Like, there's something in us that gives us amnesia to like bad things. But in order to kind of track and see how something is helping, I do think it's important to kind of snapshot every day and see how you're doing, because then you can tell if things are working.
Yeah. So just writing in a journal at night or in the morning, if you tend to do that better. I just get up and like to go in the morning, but I think it's helpful to start paying attention to how you feel, because most people don't do that. But for athletes trying to repair and recover, so we've got the fascia and the lymph. We talked about lymph. How can we use this? Because I think detoxification, as you're saying, impacts the weight loss, performance, and obviously the longevity, but how, and even any tips on why we need to do this to improve the aging process as an athlete? Because as I said, most people don't pay attention to the detoxification phase 1, 2, and 3, the drainage pathways, and why we need to really pay attention to that. And then how these oils can be a part of that process.
I mean, think about your car, right?
And I love your analogies. You always have an analogy for everything.
Yeah. But I mean, like, you know, when your oil's running low and you repair the oil, like everything in our lives, like we go to regular doctor's appointments, we take our car preventatively to get maintenance and repair. Like, I feel like repairing as you go is really important. And so what happens? Like, when something is injured, what happens? It's the blood that carries the nutrients, to fix it, and the lymph that carries the debris away. So as you're, straining your muscle in a very healthy way, as you're doing healthy daily exercise routines, all you want to do is, we have a blend that enhances circulation. What it basically does is dilates the vasculature. So, for anyone who's ever driven, it seems like all the freeways are under construction now, right? So theoretically, they're 5 lanes, but only one of them's open. So you're kind of puttering through at 2 miles an hour, and then you get past the construction and all 5 lanes are open, and you just fly. There's more space. That can be happening in your vascular system. Your blood vessels are a little bit narrow, and so not as much oxygen gets through to bring kind of the good things into the area to help your muscles recover. So we just want to dilate them. What can cause them from kind of being compressed? Well, fascia is kind of the scaffolding that holds us all together. But what happens sometimes is we brace for impact, right? Oh my God, we're in a car accident, we brace, or there's something really stressful going on. And then the danger passes, but the fascia is still holding that bracing position. So fascia release, there are a lot of like manual techniques. It's usually like pressure and time. It kind of builds heat. What we tried to do is create something in a bottle that can help with that as well. It can help you just unlock your system. And, you know, for anyone who does yoga and like certain things like hip opening is hard or heart opening is hard, you know, it's so interesting with the heart because the back of the heart, you know, especially if we're in this kind of, we're on our computer, this over slumping pose that so many of us in 2023 have just because of our lifestyle. We sit a lot on our laptop. You know, just putting it, you can even reach on the back of your heart. It's amazing. And you can test it yourself. You can, you know, do a heart opening pose and a back bend before, and then try it, you know, and if you can kind of put your hand there to just like let it linger in and then open again. Anything that enhances your mobility enhances your recovery and enhances your strength. And I think that's why, you know, I try to be an athlete. I'm not running marathons anymore. I run like 5Ks now, but I still run, you know, but I'm constantly trying, in part because my hips and my knees get grumpy. So the more that I can do to proactively make sure that those areas in the body are really getting the nutrients they need, you know, the longer I think I can prolong my athletic career.
Well, that's what I would say. All I want to do is my running performance is my kind of my goal is to get my running back. And I don't like the excuses. You're older, you can't do that. And you're not going to be the same speed. But I just feel like there's, you know, your hips, my hips are tight.
Speed, but I don't stop and I finish. Like that's kind of.
Well, I'm on a goal to get faster. So I'm just like, okay, I need to do the 20, 30-second sprints and I need to do more strength training and just shorter runs, more efficient, not doing the long stuff 4 days a week. You know, as we age, I always say embrace the aging process and change how we train and fuel and all these lifestyle habits and hacks to do. But I think it's important part to not blame the aging process. Okay, here's some things that we can do that's super inexpensive.
Yeah.
Well, you know, and do this.
Something like hydration. We all talk, everyone knows hydration is important, right? There's no one, I'm guessing, listening who's going to say like, no, it's a bad idea to drink water. But what we don't realize is it's not just consuming the water. It's kind of how the water is then distributed through the body. So fascia, you know, basically when fascia is constricted, it doesn't allow the water to get to, you know, the cells in the same way. And so anything that we can do to kind of ensure, you know, just like digestion, you want to make sure you're eating the perfect nutrient dense whole food diet. But if you're eating it under stress, you're not going to digest, absorb, and assimilate it.
I say that all the time. People always do that.
Yeah. Like you can turn the radio on in the car, and if it's on the wrong station, you're going to hear, zzz, you know, what we're trying to do with oils, with topically applying oils, is just calibrate your body for optimum reception of what you're already doing. Because it takes a lot of work to be super healthy, to eat the right food at the right time, to exercise every day, even on those days when you're tired and it's cloudy and you just don't feel like it. You know, it like go you. That is a lot of commitment. So let's make sure you're putting all this effort in. Let's make sure that you're getting the optimum return out.
Exactly. So going back to the fascia blend.
Yeah.
The fascia release. So how do I use this and when?
So you can use this anytime of day. Definitely use it before workouts, especially for those areas that are tight. Like the hips are a fabulous place to use it. Anywhere on the spine is a fabulous place to use it. The neck,
dabbing it on your finger, or you've got the
you can like dump it and kind of then rub it on. You can get this is actually the reason I created the roller ball, because you know, or started offering it in rollerball, because I just think it's so much easier to like, you know, bathe in it for lack of a better word. But you'll notice, like if you're in a yoga class and the teacher's like, okay, we're going to start cross-legged. And you're like, oh,
that's me. My hips do not like that.
You know, or when they say like pigeon and you're like, try putting it on your hips first and you'll see a difference.
Okay, I'm going to test that, because that's always my area of opportunity is any pigeon or hip openers. External rotation, I go 0 direction.
Oh, I know. Or when they're like lunging side to side and everyone else is like down on the ground, and I'm like, my hips just are not that happy.
Yeah. So that's just fascinating. So you can test that. So that's what I love is test and not guess. So you can do the muscle testing or put it on, do the stretch and then put it on. See, does it make a difference? Because a lot of people always say, oh, I can't tell if it does anything or not. So you need to do what you're trying to do first and then apply the oil and then try it again.
Yeah. And I mean, we have a 30-day return process, but you know, it's so funny, like sleep is the easiest one, right? either you're not falling asleep or you are, you take melatonin and you zonk out and you're like, okay, that worked. Or you take something else and you're like, not, like, I think people underestimate how much, they can find out and how much they know. Like,
I'm trying not to have everyone take 10 supplements before bed. It's like, why don't you just do a journal? Why don't you just stop eating 3 hours before bed? Why don't you try doing some meditation or yoga stretch? And
I like Epsom salt baths.
Bath.
If I'm not falling asleep, an Epsom salt bath always knocks me out. I go in and I'm like practically narcoleptic in the tub, and I'm like, oh, okay.
I think figuring out what helps, but I think it is so important for athletes who are really striving to have peak performance gains, need to be more aware of it's just not how your workout is. And they're so focused, I think, a lot more on nutrition, but not doing the rest of the stuff that we need to do as we're talking about.
I think there's more to the story. And my real joy in life is finding those small little pivots that have the really big impact. Like for anyone that does yoga, when the teacher comes up and adjusts you and you're like, oh my God, this is a whole different experience. Or when I used to run marathons, I did the New York Road Running Club. And when they told me, they're like, when you're running up hills, you're running with your arms. And all of a sudden, like when I'm running and I'm thinking about my arms, it's a whole, like those little things that you're like, so much easier. How did I not know this?
So that's what you can just have a little simple thing as an oil to put on my hips. How about before running? Can I put it on my hips before running, or how can I improve my running?
You can put it on your hips. I mean, circulation is kind of the one, like if I'm trying to be really active in endurance, or even honestly, if I have to write, sometimes I write really scientific blogs and it requires me to like laser focus in a way that I'm slightly ADD is hard for me. So I'll put circulation on the back of my neck or the sides of my neck, or when we do night skiing and I'm driving home on like snowy, windy roads in the dark, I always use like circulation. It just kind of helps me feel more alert and focused, and bizarrely safe because I'm more alert and focused. So before running, sometimes I do adrenal too. Like, one thing that I've noticed with the adrenal blend, I put it on the low back. So if you have 2 adrenals, they sit on top of the kidneys. And sometimes if one's working a little bit harder, it kind of twerks the pelvis a little bit, which, if you're trying to do any balance poses in yoga, like, try this at home activity, try to just hold tree pose and just count how many seconds you can do it, and do it on both legs, and then put the adrenal blend on the low back and try it again. And every single time it lets you hold it for longer. And so sometimes with me and with running, if my torso is a little twerked, like it just, the rhythm and just how I feel, like there are days when I can run 7 miles and I'm like, I feel great. This is awesome. And there are days when like 2 miles in, I'm like, this just isn't working for me. So it's kind of just trying to align your body so that everything flows.
When you're doing that behind your back, is it kind of from your belly button out and then up a little, 2 thumbs up, or what's the measurement
basically,
for that?
So the adrenals sit on top of the kidneys. The kidneys are usually around the size of your fist, and the kidneys start at your very bottom, your 12th rib. So if you put your hand behind your back and just kind of line up your fist with where that bottom rib is, it's just going to be right on top. And they're kind of on either side of the body. It doesn't need to be perfect. Like this is a good enough exercise. Like if you get it in the general area, that's good enough.
So I used to do is you did the functional medicine or functional testing for nutritional therapy. And I have not done that for just like 4 years now. I feel like, oh yeah, I forgot. I got to just start doing that again. I miss that. So we would find the points, but that's where you can use this test with essential oils too.
Yeah.
So it's good. Okay. So the fascia release, talk about that. Now, if I do the sauna too, I want to go over sauna.
Yeah, you can do it on the sauna too. It's really interesting with the sauna, like think of the bottleneck. So I would do lymph and you can do fascia on the neck. I really think that the neck is the biggest bottleneck to healing for everything, because it's really the gateway between the brain and the body. And the more you can unravel that and and this connects to like spinal adjustment, to the vagus nerve signaling, to lymph flowing, circulation being improved, and just fascia. It's like a little hack, like, every hour just check in with your posture. if you're sitting at your device, just like notice, am I hunched over, or can I, straighten that out? Like that small little pivot every day can make a big change. And sometimes, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Finish that. I was just thinking ART.
Like smell can be a signal, right? Like, remember when you were little and you would smell dinner because your mom was cooking and you're like, oh, it's almost dinner time. Or you could smell like the flowers blooming in the spring or the blackberries. And, I think that smell can be a really good assistance when you're trying to shift a habit or enhance a good habit, because it just kind of reinforces it in your brain in a different way.
Yeah, I think the smell is good. But I was going to say, if you're going to get active release technique, ART, or the chiropractor, would that help opening or before massage too, to enhance the session?
I love that you asked that question because I've been playing with that. There's a new chiropractor that I've been trying that does this thing with heating pads and electrical stimuli on the spine before the adjustment, because he says that allows him to adjust more easily and then it kind of sticks. And that really resonated with me. I was like, let's try like layering the oil on. He's really open. So I've been doing that, and then I've been doing it after, and I feel like it kind of seals it in and it makes it last for longer.
Oh, to try that. I just made an appointment for a couple weeks from now, and my chiropractor in Solana Beach, Dave, is really good at all these experiments. So, but I'm always into stacking things. Like, you don't know what works unless you do it one at a time. But then, you were saying the minimal effective dose, so to speak, of how to make the most efficient workout, or the sauna, how to make it the best detoxification process.
I'm stacking too. I mean, that's my joke kind of, if someone says like, oh, I want to lose weight, I'm thinking of exercising or changing my diet. I'm like, do both. Add in sleep. Like, I mean, there's no harm in throwing the kitchen sink at things. If it's a heavy kitchen sink and you want to make sure that it's worth the time, money, and energy, you can like try things at once, but why not?
Yeah. That's what I call like training the whole athlete, and the holistic method is just kind of, let's do this and then add in that, and then let's put it together and see if it works. So I'm going back to the sauna because it's I think a lot of people are doing the sauna, and a lot of people are doing the cold plunges. Is kind of a new trend lately.
Yeah, no,
I'm not getting into it. I'll do the cool shower, but I'm not doing I will do it, but not buying one yet. But if you're doing this sauna, infrared sauna, you're trying to sweat out toxins, improve recovery and repair from that. What would be kind of the stack oil process? And dry brushing?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can dry brush. I would absolutely, like, if you only do one thing, I would say put the lymph on the clavicles and the side of the neck. If you only do one. If you're going to do two, I would say then layer on the parasympathetic behind the vagus nerve so that your body knows it's safe to let go of toxins. If you're open to three, I would say, also maybe put some fascia on the neck or the shoulders or wherever you personally are tight, so that it's not constricting the ability, to like sweat and release things. And then if you want, if you really want to, if you're a super overachiever, I would say maybe consider the circulation blend, and you can put it on the bottom of the feet, and then it just enhances the whole circulatory system.
And then you can get into the one on the liver and then the gallbladder.
I mean, you can, but I think in the sauna, you're really looking to sweat. The liver and the gallbladder, I actually like to do before bed, like potentially with castor oil, because I think that the liver and the gallbladder, like their time to really, switch into high gear is usually while you're sleeping at 3 a.m. And like I always take binders before bed. I kind of feel like during the day I prioritize other things, but at night it's kind of liver time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what is your sleep routine?
My sleep routine, I always take binders before bed because I just feel like it's a good thing to pull it out. I sometimes put castor oil over the liver. I just kind of do the poor man's castor oil pack. Like either I'll do castor oil and then I'll get in an Epsom salt bath, or I'll just wear a t-shirt that if it gets stained, whatever, I have a couple that are like my ratty castor oil t-shirts. And then I put, we have actually 2 liver blends. One is for liver vitality and really enhancing the function of the liver. One is more for emotions. Like, if you're just feeling, like grumpy or angry, that's often the energetic aspect of the liver. So sometimes I do that. And then I also sometimes do the gallbladder one. And like if you're feeling a little nauseous or you have a mild headache or you're noticing that you're maybe getting motion sick, that's a good one. And I just put it on before bed. And I usually wake up in a pretty good mood.
Okay. And then how do you, when you're eating a meal, what do you do before a meal to get proper digestion?
I do parasympathetic to kind of turn on the whole digestive cascade before a meal. And then I really do take a moment of gratitude. Like I don't know if this is true or not, but I've heard that, you can kind of hold the water and be happy and infuse happiness into the water. Like I really try to like take a moment and be like, I'm really excited to eat this. This looks really good and healthy. And I haven't scientifically tested if that actually does anything or not, but it seems to improve my digestion.
Good. So people are probably overwhelmed now of how to get started. Yes. So I kind of went off the topic, but how can people get started if they've never used essential oils? And you've got, how many do you have now? You have a huge list of emotional blends, and then
we do, but the ones that we talked about today, I think are really the best starting ones: the parasympathetic, the lymph, the fascia, the circulation. And if you want to learn more, kind of about the parasympathetic nervous system, I have from my book a free chapter that has a coupon to get started. So they can go to boostthebrainbook.com/gift. And that goes into a lot of detail about the parasympathetic nervous system and gives like a really good discount starter coupon for the oils. They can also just head over to vibrantblueoils.com. I have tons of blogs. I actually recently wrote a performance optimization blog, and they can email us at any time with any specific questions. But yeah, it can, this was a bit like drinking from the fire hose.
Well, that's me. I just kind of go off topic because you think of things as we go. But I do like the article you just had that I sent you, the supporting the hypothalamus with essential oils, because I think so many people have these hormonal imbalances, and like we were talking about, these high performing, high charging individuals, athletes or not, that we tend to do more is better is our philosophy. And sometimes that gets you in trouble and creates this kind of metabolic chaos in the body. But just how, the thyroid we've talked a lot about, and people are always talking about low thyroid and adrenal dysfunction, and just hormones are low, and especially the aging athletes. And then those people fasting too much and not getting enough calories, and they're exercising a ton, how important it is to look at, creating balance in your body. But just looking at the hypothalamus was an interesting article you talked about, and how they add in too, that you're talking about how essential oils act like adaptogens. And everybody's talking about ashwagandha and all these things in the mushrooms, and how essential oils can help with that similar role.
Well, it's really interesting. So for those who don't know what adaptogens are, think of Goldilocks, right? Some of it's not too hot, it's not too cold, it's just right. And it kind of meets you where you're at. So for anyone that's ever taken like a saliva, 24-hour saliva spit test, right? It's not a flat line. It's not that you're always too hot. Cortisol is supposed to be high in the morning, so you have the energy to get up. And then as the day wanes and it becomes night, it's supposed to decline so that you are then able to fall asleep. And when people have dysregulated cortisol rhythms, it's either too low in the morning or too high at night. So it impacts your ability to get up in the morning and your ability to restfully fall asleep at night. So there are remedies that you can take that kind of give you more energy and enhance your cortisol, or kind of calm it down. And you have to kind of best guess the timing. Or you can take an adaptogenic herb like ashwagandha, or your leuthia, or all of them. And they just kind of, if it's too high, it brings you up a little bit. If it's too low, it brings you down. It just kind of meets you where you're at. Yeah, and I actually think that all plants, including like the food that you ingest, mushrooms, herbs, essential oils, I think they all kind of work in that way, where they're just very balancing and gentle.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. So that's all your blogs are very scientifically based, so people can read more. But I like the hypothalamus is out of balance. It can negatively impact energy, ability to handle stress, hunger and thirst, weight control, emotions and mood, body temperature, sleep-wake cycles, sex drive, and fertility. And I think, for performance in life and sports, that would be big area. We always say start north, work your way south, but using simple thing as our lifestyle habits, but adding in some essential oils is a simple thing. And you can just throw it in your pocket. You don't have to, like I was like traveling.
And that was kind of right here, third eye.
Third eye. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So good. And what else you've got going on? Are you working on any projects or just continuing writing blogs? What are you doing?
I'm really obsessed with anxiety and kind of what I perceive as this really sad epidemic, because a lot of my kids' friends are just really paralyzed in a way that makes me so sad, and it's there's a shortage of psychiatrists, there's a 6-month waiting list. So I'm really just trying to remind people, I love this quote by Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl: between the stimulus and the response, there's a space. And in that space lies our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. And so just helping people remember that when they're feeling overwhelmed or anxious or shut down, all of these are kind of normal survival functions. We just went through a very strange time on this planet, and we might still feel a little PTSD. So, just applying a little parasympathetic oil can kind of give you that space. And once you have that space, you have the power to make different choices, to see options, and to really feel better in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I know a lot of clients that I've been working with, they're athletes and working out, but they're also have a lot of trauma or a lot of loss of family members. Lately, everyone seems to be losing mother, a father, sibling, somebody is dealing with this stress, this chronic stress in our lifestyle. So just it really impacts your ability to perform your best in sports, but just daily life. And I think looking at, what are your stressors externally and try to identify those and address them, simple things we're talking about, but the breathing and the yoga and nature walks, grounding, all the different things, optimizing sleep, sauna, baths are so essential, but that contributes to what's going to happen inside. And that's why I always talk about functional lab testing, identifying those hidden internal sources of chronic stress that you don't know they exist unless you put it all together. But the trauma and the stress out there, anxiety, I just know there's, I see it all, that every client I'm working with has got some major life stressor going on that's impacting their ability to thrive every day. So I think it is something. And I think part of it is everyone's so on all the time. And I go to the gym and everyone's on with earplugs on, listening to something.
Yeah.
I looked around, everyone's looking at their phone in between sets. And I think we're so digitally connected and stimulus all the time that we don't know how to unplug and disconnect and just kind of recharge without external sources. It's an important part of the journey to be healthy. So anyways, thanks for chatting today and sharing some information. I was just curious about new things and things that we can do to help our performance and just kind of helping the whole athlete be healthy from the inside out, but really simple things that we can do that are affordable. Because how much is one oil about the average?
Well, if you download our guide at boostthebrainbook.com, I think we have a special offer where it's $15 just to try, and that includes shipping.
So inexpensive. And one of these bottles lasts like a year almost.
It doesn't go bad. Don't put it in direct sunlight, but if you kind of keep it in a shady place, it will never go bad. And it really just depends on how much you use it. But it can last a very long time.
Yeah, because just a tiny bit goes a long way. So, well, thank you. We'll put all the links in the show notes so you guys can get that chapter from the book, and we'll put anything else in there, these great articles you're always writing, and follow Jodi on, are you doing a YouTube channel, video, social media? What are you doing?
I have everything but Twitter, because that makes me bananas. I have Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, Amazon, my book.
Do we look up Vibrant Oils?
It is Vibrant Blue Oils.
Vibrant Blue Oils. Look that up. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, have a great day and hope you have a fun weekend ahead.
Oh, thank you. And I love this. Impacting our ability to thrive. Don't let anything impact your ability to thrive this weekend.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Low Carb Athlete Podcast. If you have any questions, feedback, or topic suggestions, let us know on Facebook or at debbiepotts.net. You can help us to continue to grow by leaving a review on iTunes. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.